the top three areas that dentists should focus on to optimize for growth. Well, growth is actually something that many dentists approach fortune management for. That's probably the top reason that dentists seek us out. And that I will tell you, the things that most dentists come to us and they think they've got a solution, they may come to us and say, hey, I just need you to help me create more efficient systems. So many dentists are focused on the systems and efficiencies. And yes, that is one of the top three things that I would suggest is really important to growing your practice. We want to have systems that are boiled down to clean standard operating procedures so that everyone on your team is actually on the same page and that everyone does these tasks in a similar way, and we're using each other to get the best practices for different types of systems and procedures. Everything is very consistent within the practice. Another area that dentists intuit is an important part of growing a practice is around new patients. So many dentists come to me and say, well, how do I get more new patients? And I can't help but always think of sort of a dating analogy where the dentist is looking for new patients because the grass seems to be greener over there. But patient flow is one of the keys to growth. And a big part of your patient flow is making sure that your current existing patients are actually coming back in on their recommended recare schedule and they're accepting the treatment that you're offering them. So activities like chart audits, patient reactivation, and really cultivating the patients you already have is an important part of your growth in addition to those new patients. The third area that I think is really important to growing a practice is working on team development, because your culture and your team is really the key to having that growth. You want everyone in the practice to be pulling in the same direction. So there are a number of things that you can do to really support your team and incentivize them to help you grow, because you want to take advantage of that teamwork by helping them develop, giving them opportunities to grow and learn, providing training for them, and ideally incentivizing them with some type of bonus or recognition programs that acknowledge their support in helping you grow. Right, so optimizing case acceptance while also making sure that your patients are satisfied. And those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. What a lot of dentists fear is that they don't want to become pushy salespeople with their patients. They don't want to pressure their patients into things. And sometimes patients have pushback. They only want what the insurance will cover. Instead of being salespeople, we like to help dentists become really good at this idea of enrolling patients into their philosophy of care. And the simple process of enrollment is a change from telling the patient what you know is best for them to asking better questions of the patient. So naturally, we have a coaching approach that we recommend with Fortune because we are coaches ourselves. And great coaching is asking great questions. So a simple question that dentists can ask that will really kickstart the rapport that you have with your patient is to ask them, what's most important to you in the dental care that you receive today? You may have some patients that say comfort, others might say aesthetics, or they might be concerned about the longevity of the restoration that you're proposing, or they may be concerned about just simple function, like they just want to be able to chew. So whatever your patient's focus is, you can present the exact same treatment and show the patient how it is aligned with what they value and what's important to them. By using those questions, you're developing a collaborative approach with the patients instead of educating them. So many dentists were taught to educate the patients, but let's be honest, most patients aren't coming to the dentist to get a lecture or learn about dentistry. What they want is for somebody to help them get their values met. So by enrolling your patients and finding out what's important to them, you can tailor your treatment presentation and what you know is best for them to what the patient values. Then your patients really feel heard and are more likely to say yes. Optimizing internal workflows and processes to improve efficiency and profitability. That's a mouthful. It sounds very technical. So yes, technology and digital workflows are an incredible opportunity to improve the efficiency in your practice. And when we talk about digital workflow in dentistry, we're usually talking about things like using a prime scan, some type of digital impressioning. That can just streamline everything. You want technology that all works together. I previously worked as a representative with Patterson Dental, and one of the things that would happen, sometimes practices would buy less expensive technology, but then it didn't integrate as well. So having that seamless integration, every time you have to do an extra click, that time adds up. So that's an important part of your processes, is having a good digital workflow where all of your different softwares and digital imaging work seamlessly together. But the other part of these processes that is so important to improving efficiency and profitability is around your people. We know that when you grow a practice, you have to grow the people in the practice. So the process, one of the areas that I always want to focus on is, how is your teamwork? And the teamwork often starts with your training program. So what are your training processes in the practice? And that's an area that can sometimes be overlooked, that really can improve that efficiency and profitability, is making sure that everyone is on the same page and people are being consistently trained. Addressing systemic issues that are affecting your workflow, affecting your growth. Well, the first way to identify your issues is to take a step back and take a look at key performance indicators, or KPIs. That's something that many practices are familiar with. We recommend working with somebody like Avid or Dental Intel. These are softwares that you can use that will actually create a dashboard where you can look at all the analytics in your practice, and you'll see when there's issues arising, because it takes a look at production, collections, new patients. We can also track those things manually, just using a simple spreadsheet or something that we call a target board, where your team is manually tracking your key performance indicators. So the key performance indicators are often lag indicators. If your production starts to go down or new patients start to drop, that's often as the result of, it's telling you something that's already happened. So keeping an eye on lead indicators is another key way to really address these systemic issues, is to look at what are some of the things that we're not doing on the front end that are affecting these numbers. So it could be things like, how many reactivation calls are we making? Are we scheduling to goal? What is our case acceptance rate? Those types of lead indicators are often an even better way to analyze and understand what's going on underneath the hood in a practice. And we will usually take practices through the 5 different business engines to look at how they're doing in each of those different areas. And the 5 business engines includes marketing, people, financial, clinical, and systems. So we can see how any key performance indicator is affected by all the different areas of the practice, and usually that allows us to hone in on what's actually the source of these systemic issues. There's 2 different distinct options here. Either dentists are maintaining and optimizing their insurance position, or deciding to go fee for service. Many clients come to us looking for the pathway to dropping dental insurance, and we don't have an opinion about which direction to go. There are ways to optimize if you decide to maintain insurance, but for the dentists who are looking to go fee for service, really the key is taking the time to make sure everyone on your team is very confident about communicating what are the benefits to the patient if you decide to go out of network. Because the dentist may understand, I need to go out of network in order to continue to be profitable as a practice. But the patients need to understand how it benefits them. So when your team can confidently articulate that the patients will have a higher standard of care, better quality materials, more time with the dentist, and that their insurance company is not going to be dictating their treatment, that's when you are really ready to go fee for service. So training is actually one of my favorite topics, and I think this is an area that so many practices it's kind of an afterthought. So some important keys are to have really standardized and consistent training set up where you've got perhaps mentors or people that they can shadow within the practice, and you've got good checklists, and you have good standard operating procedures that they can follow. One of the key tools that we love to coach practices around is something called the training blueprint, where instead of just telling a new employee or somebody new on your team, just telling them what to do, if you do that, a lot of times the team member is just going to be nodding along in agreement, but they may not really understand what you're telling them. So our training blueprint is a series of questions that you ask the team member to ensure that they really understand. So you ask them things like, what does a great job look like? And why is it important to do it that way? Why do you feel it's important to do it that way? And what are the positive consequences when you do the job or the task and you perform it that way? And do you have the time and resources to perform it at this high quality level that you just shared with me? Right? So you're asking the team member those types of questions, and that training blueprint is a real key to creating that scalable training and making sure that they understand the ins and outs of every task that they're doing. Improving the patient experience. So one of the things that I always think of when I think about the patient experience is a book by our friend Fred Joyal. Fred Joyal was the founder of 1-800-DENTIST, and he has a book that is pretty famous in the dental world called Everything is Marketing. And that's an important concept to keep in mind when you're thinking about onboarding new patients, is beginning with the end in mind. What do we want patients to experience when they're in our practice? And really having thoughtfulness around every single step, from the first impression, how you're answering the phone, what do your forms look like, doing a tour of the office when the patient visits for the first time, how you greet the patients, how your practice appears online, if that's the way that patients are finding you. And then every step along their experience, the handoffs between front and back, and really abiding by this idea of no lonely patients, so that the patient isn't left alone during their appointment. So really optimizing all steps of the patient experience, and really looking at what is the last impression. Are we taking that patient up to the front desk and really acknowledging them and thanking them and having that connection with them where they feel seen and heard, instead of having the swipe of the credit card be the very last impression? So when we optimize that patient experience and we remember that everything that happens in the practice is part of our marketing, that's when we're really going to improve the efficiency of onboarding new patients. So tips for dentists who want to future-proof their practices, right? So one of the best ways to really position your practice for growth and to be ready for the future is to just surround yourself with a team of rock stars, so your dream team. And at Fortune, we often talk about having team members who are committed to something that we call CANI, C-A-N-I, constant and never-ending improvement. So teammates that are all committed to this constant improvement and growth, that's the team you want to have around you to really adapt and grow and be able to pivot quickly in the future. Other things that are important for our clients that we're seeing is a lot of our clients in high performing practices are multidisciplinary. They're bringing in specialists that are giving them an opportunity to offer multiple specialties to the patients. And then having a good digital workflow, as I mentioned earlier, is an important component to having everything streamlined and integrated in your practice so that everything runs smoothly and efficiently. The people who have a good digital workflow are going to be positioned for future success. And then last but not least, I would say having a good network of trusted advisors is another way to be ready for what the future holds. Your Patterson representative has a window into what's happening in the dental industry. Your banker, your practice banker, may understand things that are, how to position yourself financially for success. And of course, working with a fortune coach is also going to have you ready to navigate all the complex things coming down the line in the future and help you maintain that growth.